We're here again.
Yeah, we keep doing this.
Imagine that. So, welcome everybody to Romero Pictures Indie Brigade once again. If it's your first time joining us, please go to the Facebook page, hit that like button and the follow button. We'd greatly appreciate that. George, what do we got going on tonight?
Well, Joe, thanks for asking. Also, you're a little choppy, just so you know. I don't know what's going on, but you got a little choppy there as soon as we went.
I got a little choppy. Okay, I'm going to look into that.
So, first of all, thanks everybody for coming to episode 2 of Romero Pictures Indie Brigade. As always, thank you to Joe Ridgely, and thank you to tonight's guests. Tonight we've got David Madison, we've got Ernie O'Donnell, and we've got James King coming up. I'm going to keep the intro kind of short and brief. There's exciting things going on in the world of Romero, which is pretty cool. As always, we've got the little family woodworking prop and production design company, McKim Wood and Leather, that is going along great. It's a lot of fun. Beyond that, the big news is with the Veterans Compound, which for those of you who don't know what's going on, the Veterans Compound is a nonprofit I've been working to get off the ground for a lot of years and have really just kind of begun to take the fundraising seriously in recent months and this year. And things are looking very promising. For anybody who knows me, they know that I don't say things like that lightly. So the Veterans Compound is a phenomenal effort, in my opinion, obviously because it's my concept, but where we work with veterans and help them sort of process a lot of what they've been through using the creative arts, whether it be filmmaking, music, woodworking, anything creative and artistic. And if it goes well, we're going to be starting with a couple of classes of 30 vets twice a year. And I just couldn't be happier and more excited about it. So I'm hoping that it all comes to fruition. It looks like we're in the final stages on some funding for it. And it just makes my heart warm to kind of talk about it. So that's the big news on this front.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So got a few guests on tonight.
Yes, we do.
Let's see. I think we're going to start out with James. Tell us who James is, if you would, please.
Absolutely. James, Mr. James King is the proprietor of King's Fine Woodworking. He's probably one of the finest woodworkers that I've seen in recent years. He has a YouTube channel and a following on Facebook. And what I love about him is the way he talks about what he's doing. And his love for the finer aspects of the art of it and the creative of it. So I'm excited that he's here to talk to us, and I'd love to bring him on.
Well, without further ado, I am going to drop down and let me make a couple of adjustments, and we'll get him right in.
Hey, James.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good.
Good. I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight. Seriously, taking time out of your Friday night and coming to talk to a filmmaker about woodworking.
You bet.
So you're in Colorado, right?
Yes, that's right.
What's it like there? Is it getting cold yet?
We actually had a little bit of a snowstorm yesterday, last night, and this morning, but it's actually been hot. Other than that, 70, 80 degrees every day. It's been nice.
Oh, that's cool. So, James, why don't you just introduce yourself? If I didn't cover anything in your intro, just give us a quick who you are and what you do.
I think you covered the important aspects there. I went to school to be a chemist. I used to teach organic chemistry for a long time, and I've been doing woodworking for even longer. I started woodworking right after I got married. My father-in-law kind of started teaching me. This was back in the 80s. And so, I don't know, 33, 34 years, something like that. I've been doing various things. And then 2 years ago, someone asked, well, why don't I put a video out of doing some woodworking? And I saw some different woodworking on YouTube. I really like teaching things. And so I thought, I'll give it a shot. We tried a video, and I thought it was going to be a failure because it was so long. But it turned out it was kind of successful. A lot of people liked it. And it's been fun. It's been fun enough to where I can pay the bills doing this as opposed to teaching chemistry. And that's kind of a blast because I get to spend every day with my kids doing this.
That's really cool. those are all the right reasons to do it. So obviously, when I've been a fan of yours and a follower of yours and a watcher of your videos and all of that, and then I got into your online community on Facebook and became active there. I've been woodworking most of my life as well. It's the only thing that kind of keeps me sane in these epic, horrible downtimes between getting film projects going and off the ground. Sometimes the process of getting it going is so long and painful that you just need something to stay sane. And I've always been able to either make money swinging a hammer or stay sane doing a little bit more of the fine woodworking. And I love it. And I'll tell you, the thing that we really started talking after I saw of yours was a video that you did on the golden ratio. And then I actually sent you a video about the golden ratio used in the cinematography of There Will Be Blood.
Yes.
And I started thinking about, more of a correlation. I've always kind of wanted to figure out how to tie these two worlds together. A lot of what I do is just like, a lot of what any entrepreneur does is you identify opportunities and you try to marry them together. And I've been trying to kind of figure out how to tie the woodworking in, beyond the fact that I make props and do a little bit of production design here and there for little, indie short films and things. And that just seemed like a perfect tie-in, and it started kicking off my brain, and it got me thinking about directly about the golden ratio and about your creative process, and in comparison to the creative process of say a cinematographer. And I really wanted to talk to you about that. And so I'm excited that you're here to talk to me about it live. Because, what we've got with a lot of our audience is a lot of young filmmakers, a lot of folks out there looking to try to figure this out, trying to get their first movie made, trying to get their first song, recorded, whatever they're working on. And, there's a lot of barriers that people like you and me face in our woodworking that are similar. And, what I think is so cool about the way you explain things is that you put it in terms that guys like me can understand. And I'm like this terminally creative person. And so I was thinking maybe we could just talk about that a little bit. At what point do you think that you stopped worrying about how you were going to build things and focused more on the creative choices you were going to make with projects that you come up with? When did you kind of turn your craft over to your inner creative?
Well, I'm not really sure that I 100% have. A lot of things that we build out of necessity. Somebody requests a certain thing to meet certain design requirements, like the bed that you showed a minute ago, the sleigh bed. There's a couple that wanted that sleigh bed, and the thing is, it had to be a certain height, a certain width. You had to hold a queen size mattress, and so. But no standard sleigh bed would fit that. So I had to alter the angles and stuff like that, but I had to try to keep it aesthetically pleasing with the proportions. So, I think everything that we do, I start with something that has a practical need, and then I try to design something that looks good, looks proportional from that. So I don't do a whole lot, unfortunately, of stuff that's just true, straight creative work. I think my girls are probably a little more creative than me. They come up with some really good ideas. But I try to take something that's ordinary and make it look a little bit better. And for me, it's all about the aesthetics of the piece. Like the vise that I built, I looked at a regular machinist bench vise and just tried to modify that or try to keep it as give it the same strength in wood, but make it aesthetically pleasing, make it look like a vise should look. So I guess it's, for me, the only thing that I do that's truly creative, I think, is to try to keep the aesthetics and the proportions so where they look normal.
Yeah, well, you said that your daughters are more creative than you. I mean, that doesn't come from nowhere, sir. That comes from you. So, it's interesting to me, and I do love watching you guys work as a family. But with regard to, say, the golden ratio, could you just break that down quickly for anybody who's watching who may not really know what the golden ratio is? The way you explain it is really just brilliant.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, it's a length to width or a width to height proportion that occurs all throughout nature. The ratios, as it turns out, is about 1.618 to 1. And that's one of the things those calipers were designed to do, is they'll create that, you open up the calipers and there'll be a short distance and then a large distance, and then any proportion that falls within that range, or with plus or minus 10%, just looks aesthetically pleasing. That's the distance, even in the human face, the distance between the eyes and the nose and the mouth, that's the golden ratio. The hammers that we built, just an odd stroke of luck, happened to match that golden ratio to within like about 1%, our Thor's hammers. And I think that's it. It's just a 1.618 to 1 is the key for the ratio.
Right, but when did you kind of like start using this within your woodworking and
probably from the beginning. I think whenever I'd go about to design a new piece, if somebody's wants a bookcase or something like that, I would sketch something up and it would look too tall or too wide, something like that, and so we would just adjust it to get closer to that ratio, the 1.618 to 1 ratio, and it just automatically makes a piece look better. It happens with boxes, with anything.
Now, this is something that like you said, is naturally appealing. You know, that holds true across so many things. You know, and I don't know really what it is about the humans that makes this a real thing, but it is a very real thing. There are certain things that sound right to us, certain things that look right to us, certain things that are more visually just naturally appealing to us as a human, I guess, right? I mean, do you know like why that is, or do you have any idea?
I don't. I think there's a lot of speculation that those proportions look pleasing because we see them so frequently.
Yeah.
I think when we see them in living organisms, we just somehow our eyes and our brains become adjusted or accustomed to those proportions, and we find them pleasing. But they exist in places so far deeper ranging than that. Even the twist of a DNA molecule, the helices, the number of times that it revolves around as compared to the height, that also falls in the 1.618 to 1 ratio. The distance of the planets orbiting the sun, the same thing. So some of those things are far too great for us to see. But I think the biggest theory out there is that it's what we see every day in faces and in living organisms.
And it's literally wired into us. And you know, in filmmaking, and when I talk to a lot of younger filmmakers, they ask me, they say, why doesn't my stuff look like that stuff, or why doesn't my stuff look like the big budget stuff, or and then I see low budget indie stuff that looks like they spent $1 million on it, and it's because of things like the golden ratio that whether or not a lot of filmmakers even know they're probably even close to it, odds are they are. But there are certain films out there, like There Will Be Blood, where the cinematographer made that the primary focus or his primary goal was to actually shoot the entire film using the golden ratio, and it's beautiful to watch, and it directs the viewer exactly where you want the viewer to be directed. And it's interesting because I think with a lot of the woodworking and a lot of the stuff that you do, your work is so clean that when you use that golden ratio, it directs people's eyes across your work, across the screen, across whatever you're looking at. And it's interesting to me because I just you're so fascinating with the way that you come up with the things that you do, and I just feel like there's got to be there's got to be a way to kind of tie this in for my audience to kind of understand. The stuff exists in nature, and there are a million ways to get your work to be appealing. In other words, so as movie viewers, for years we've been going to the movies and we've been being trained. We're used to what handheld shots look like in big movies because those handheld shots were done the same way since the 1920s, with a handful of guys holding up a huge camera. So it's interesting that the golden ratio plays into this.
Yeah, I think when I saw that clip that you showed me of that movie, it was really interesting to see how they laid out how the director did that. It's almost like he took every element on the screen, almost one frame at a time, and made sure that it had some bearing or some sort of natural proportion to it. And somehow, when you watch the whole thing, it gave it a very aesthetically pleasing look.
Exactly, and that comes into play in almost everything that you do. Now, tell me, when it comes to your YouTube channel. You said you put up your first video about 2 years ago, correct?
Yeah, it was actually January 2 years ago. So I guess we're about 2 3/4 years from that point now.
Yeah, and you said it did really well. Now, is that pretty much right after that is when you started the Facebook community?
I think we waited almost a year. So the Facebook community, let's see, probably it's about maybe 18 months, 19 months old. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we started that after the main channel started to grow, just as a way for a lot of people used to email me and ask me a lot of questions. In fact, I get almost 400 emails a day, a lot of emails. And so I put together the community as a place for people to get together, share their work, ask questions. And the community is mixed up of a bunch of very advanced woodworkers and some intermediates and some beginners. So when someone posts a question, usually they'll get a range of answers. So it kind of helped me to help answer a lot of the questions that were out there. And it was a way for me to get closer to and interact with all the people as well. I spend about 100 hours a month in the community answering questions.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, I mean, here's the thing about it. It's probably the most truly and genuinely collaborative community I've ever seen on social media. And, that's kind of the spirit of what I'm trying to get going here with the Indie Brigade. The whole concept behind the Indie Brigade is that there is also a secret Facebook community that once you're a guest or you become a friend of the show, you get invited into. And it's for people to basically collaborate and learn from each other and work together. And so filmmakers can find musicians and musicians can find films, and everybody can kind of work together. Have you done, I know that you've done a lot of larger framing and larger construction as well. Have you ever considered sort of turning your skills and your talents toward production design for film and television, or basically maybe making those services available to our community?
Yeah, I definitely. In fact, it's funny you mentioned that. My family has owned several big haunted houses, haunted attractions in Denver. Primitive Fear, 13th Street Manor, some places like that, in Albuquerque as well. And so for about 14 years, we did that. And I went in and worked with them and actually created and built the sets for those. And we built those some of them are very elaborate, realistic movie sets that we built. We'll go in and just recreate a room to meet a particular vision or whatever. And so we have done a lot of that. And I had a lot of fun doing that. We don't do that anymore. My uncle, who was kind of in charge of the whole thing, he retired. So we've closed those down since then, but I think they still license out the name. But that's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people, anybody who's done some woodworking or some framing, could really get into set design. I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if maybe that's something that you'd be willing to kind of join our community and maybe just sort of even just offer opinions or guidance to some of these folks out there who are looking to try to figure out how to take no budget and turn it into something. You know what I mean? So, I mean, that's kind of where.
Okay. It cut out on me there for a minute. You said something about your community, and then you.
Oh yeah. Are you there?
Out.
Hello?
Yep. I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. All right. I was saying, would you be willing to come into our community and just basically be able to offer some kind of advice to some young folks who may be looking to figure out how to get something out of nothing, So in other words, they got these no budgets and they're really trying to figure out how to make their movie look good.
For sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of ways, to do that through set design, prop design, things like that. And so, I'm really trying to find an amazing small group of ragtag professionals, I guess, from all walks of everything creative and artistic to come together. Because there's when I got into the film business, there was a collaborative nature to it, especially in the indie world. And over the years, I've watched it get a little bit more cutthroat. But what I've found in the horror community, which is the absolute best fan community in the world, is that there's a loyalty and a dedication and a true desire to collaborate. And I've really only ever seen it in the horror world, and now I've seen it on the online woodworking world through your group and your community. And I think that that's a phenomenal model, and I think that this is this could be a great future, kind of just moving forward. Everything seems really, really fun.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. I'd be very interested in participating and helping out. You can just create some amazing sets for next to nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, and even beyond the sets, even just props that are made for a character to use that are special to that character, so somebody doesn't run down to the dollar store and buy something and change it with duct tape.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a million ways to make something specific for a character that really enhances a visual story.
Yeah.
So, well, this is very exciting to me. There's a picture of that workbench that I want to build. That thing's crazy, but yeah. So let me ask you this. I had a question in my mind, and I think that last train of thought just left town, and I don't think I was on it. I had a question for you, and I should have written it down. Anyway, well, is there anything that you would like to kind of talk about with regard to your business, or how people can find you, or anything like that?
We're not. I even make an effort to go out and actively promote anything. I think we do it more for fun than anything else. The fact that we can make a living off it is fantastic. It's not a great living, but it's a lot of fun. But I think if people are interested, they can check us out on YouTube. It's kingsfinewoodworking.com, and then if they watch enough of those, they'll see links or hints here or there where there's access to the community. If they apply to get into the community, if they answer the questions, we check them out, make sure they're a woodworker, then they're welcome there. But yeah, that's good enough for us.
Awesome. Well, listen, you've got a beautiful family, and I enjoy watching you. And I'm really happy that we've started to become friends too through this whole thing. So
yeah, it's been fantastic.
Yeah, I can't thank you enough for coming on tonight, James. Really, it means the world to me. And I, thanks for talking to me about this.
You bet. You're very welcome.
All right. Have a great night.
You too.
It would help if I took the mute button off because I wasn't on camera, but if that's the worst thing that happens tonight, guess what, man? We're way ahead of the game.
You're doing all right.
Anyway, there was some really cool, intricate freaking stuff there, man. That's amazing.
I'm telling you, he's probably the best woodworker. His stuff is just amazing, and he builds it so beefy and to last forever. And understands so much about it. And I just kind of wanted to have him on to raise some awareness about the golden ratio with filmmakers and talk about it from a different standpoint from filmmaking. So it really does mean the world to me that he came on tonight.
Right on. Well, I think we're going to go with our next guest, David Lee Madison. Are you set?
Absolutely.
Okay, you hesitated there for a second. Right on. All right, let me bring David up.
What was that?
And there he is.
Where? Hey, there he is. Hey, the lighting is much more dramatic. Now he's muted.
You know why? Because I muted his microphone when the other gentleman was on. Now he can speak. Watch, magic.
Wow. Can you hear me?
That's unbelievable.
Right?
Modern technology.
It's phenomenal. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Great.
That was a very interesting piece. I mean, I never really thought much about the intricacies of what he does, but that was pretty awesome.
Thanks. Yeah. Woodworking I've been woodworking as long as I've been shooting things with a camera. And when I watch James, it just takes me back to the love for it. And the love for the woodworking helps the love for the filmmaking stay fresh and vice versa. And it really does keep me sane.
Well, sadly, I've been working with my wood since I'm about 18, but that's pretty much the extent of it.
And you can still see, so that's good.
What? What'd you say, young man?
That is awesome.
So you and Joe have some history, yeah?
Yes, I was on Joe's show, I think. Was it last year, Joe? It's been
a
bit.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, and we're friends on Facebook, and I have the utmost respect for Joe. I think he's really good at what he does. And when he reached out to me and said, "Hey, do you want to do the show?" I think before he finished IMing me, I responded, "Absolutely."
Awesome.
Yep.
Well,
and I'm very honored to meet you, George. I was a big fan of your dad's. And I'm currently in the early stages of working with one of your dad's old mates, John Russo.
Oh, yeah? What
Yeah.
are you and John working on?
We're putting together something. We're not. It's kind of. I'm going with the idea of like an apt pupil type of film with John being the Ian McKellen character. But we're at the very early stages, so we'll see how that develops. But I would love to work with John. He's a smart guy.
Yeah. I love John, actually. I remember John throughout my whole life.
I would imagine.
Well, listen, what is it that let's start out by talking about what you want to talk about.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you working on? What do you have going on? What are you here to talk about? I know that I heard rumor of some sort of announcement, maybe.
Absolutely. In 2012, I made a film called Mr. Hush. And I was blessed for it to kind of develop a cult following. I get to do conventions for it. A lot of fans for that film. And it was just a loving homage to 80s horror films, kind of in a contemporary reinvention of 80s horror films. So it came out in 2012, and it reached several top 10 rental lists and sales lists, and I was actually very proud of it. And ever since it came out, a lot of people have asked me, will Mr. Hush ever return? And I never really felt like doing a sequel or any kind of continuation of a story is worthwhile unless you have a story to tell.
Right.
So this summer, my daughter, who's a genius, I don't know where the hell that came from, she's a big Civil War buff. Okay. So for her birthday, we took her out to Gettysburg and Antietam, where all the great Civil War battles have occurred. Right. And when I was out there, I had a wonderful idea came to me. So I get home and I jot it down, and I came up with a script. And this is totally going to shock everybody because I kept it completely quiet. This will be the first time anybody's hearing about it. But next Thursday, there will be returning to your screen a new Mr. Hush short called Mr. Hush Legacy.
No kidding.
Yep. It's a 13-minute short. And it's about a Confederate soldier who is fighting in Gettysburg, and he is kind of trapped and marooned at the Devil's Den, and our villainous Mr. Hush comes upon him in the Devil's Den. I know Joe is probably one of the only people in the entire country who's seen it. So what do you think, Joe?
I loved it.
Did you get to see it, George?
I did. I saw it.
Oh, awesome.
I was hoping it was cool to say that I saw it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's
great. I kind of checked on that beforehand.
I loved it too.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Joe. You asked Joe first, so I'll let you answer.
I wasn't sure if you saw it, George. It wasn't just. I know Joe did.
Yeah, I saw it, and it was. Well, I can't give anything away. It's very cool, and
thank you.
It took me by surprise. Let me get the other picture up. Give me 1 second. There's this really cool guy who's in it.
Oh, there you go. That's a handsome fella.
I don't remember his name, though.
I always promise myself never to do anything in front of the camera. But for some reason, this one just felt different for me. A, to play a Southern Confederate soldier I thought was interesting. And B, to do something with the character that I created that is so dear to me, I thought would be pretty awesome. And why we made this movie is because next Thursday, Mr. Hush will be available for the first time ever worldwide on video on demand. And so when you go to download or rent Mr. Hush, you'll get Mr. Hush Legacy included with it. If you're already one of the over 35,000 people who bought the DVD or Blu-ray, you can just rent or download Legacy as a standalone for like $1.49 or something like that. I don't know what the price is. So, but yeah, I'm super excited. I thought the material in this film is extremely topical for the way we are as a country at the moment. And, it's a 13-minute piece, but I think it actually says a lot in that 13 minutes.
Absolutely. And your Southern accent was point on.
Oh, there you go.
It does. I actually watched it earlier today. And I got to tell you, man, I thought it was really great too. I was kind of wondering where you were going with it. And then it was, your timing and pacing in it was great. The way you looked at it is your perspective on that whole thing is phenomenal. There was a couple of moments I'm not gonna obviously talk about them, but there was one moment in particular where you made me laugh. And I think you probably know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. And I thought for something this heavy to have a moment where it's okay for me to laugh and be okay to laugh as an audience member, that you did a phenomenal job with that and that delivery. I really thought it was good stuff, man, and that's really good news. I'm excited for you, and I'm happy to hear about all that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and the fact that Mr. Hush is a character that could go on for generations and decades. I thought it would be cool to visit a specific date in history, and something, over 100 and I guess close to 150 years ago. So, yeah, and. Edward X. Young, who's been, I think, in over 100 horror movies, really sells it. So I was super thrilled with the way it came out. And I think it's kind of cool to just drop it on the public without any kind of big hoopla on it. I'm hoping it's one of those things where the work speaks for itself and people kind of word of mouth it on whether or not if it's worthy of getting the love I think it deserves.
Well, I think it deserves it too, man. I think everything that gets made with the love that you obviously put into it and the history that you have with it, mm-hmm. It shows. And I hope it gets the recognition that I think it deserves too.
Thank you. I see somebody in the chat room, somebody named Kim, asking me when my other film, Wit's End, is going to come out. Wit's End is totally completed. It will be in theaters in flagship cinemas sometime between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And that stars myself, Brian O'Halloran, who, of course, was Dante from Clerks, and Scott Schiaffo, who is the Chuli's gum guy in Clerks. And that's a feature-length film. And I'm super proud of that. It's not a horror film. It's a survival movie. But it's very endearing. It's very sweet. And it's extremely funny. Somehow Brian and Scott managed to make it funny around how impossibly bad I am.
And I think we got to report on this when you were on my show.
Yes. I mean, that was a weird movie because it had to be shot over extreme blizzard conditions. And every frame of that movie when our hero is, Jeffrey Stevens is the character's name, is trying to survive a blizzard, he's out in the middle of 4 to 5 feet of snow. So we had 2 super storms over the course of 2 years up here in the Northeast, one called Blizzard Stella and one called Blizzard Riley. And like a moron, I get my crew and I have them lugging around Northeast Pennsylvania in blizzard conditions, shooting this picture. But the great thing about it is that when you do something like that, it looks super authentic. And you break a lot of lenses. Oddly enough, lenses don't like cold. Who'd ever think?
Okay, so this is an interesting point you bring up. Lenses don't like cold. Let's jump into talking about kind of maybe overcoming some adversity like that. There you go. That's a perfect practical example. Lenses don't like cold. Tell us what you did, because don't forget, there's a lot of people who are hopefully going to be watching this either now or in the archived YouTube who are looking to folks like you for advice, stories about the past, things that they've run into, that just all of those stories add experience. So now you got our young filmmakers out there, and they're going out to make a movie, and it never occurs to them that the only lens that they own, that they saved up to go buy, is going to break if it's too cold. What do you do? You know?
Well, it's a tough lesson to learn, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
We were out in on a hillside in Pennsylvania. I think it was -21 when we were shooting. And when we got back from the location to the trailer, we had one guy who was like with a snowblower making like a walkway for us, because the snow was like, I'm 6'7", and it went up to like past my navel. So we are going back, and when we got into the trailer, I wanted to look at the dailies. So you take the media card out and you put it into a laptop or something.
Yeah.
And I'm disassembling the camera, and I take the lens off, and all of a sudden I just hear like, and I was like, what the hell is that? And because it went from -20 to 65 that it was in the trailer, the glass broke. Luckily, I had a few other prime lenses with us, but it's a very expensive lesson to learn. Don't take your lenses out in the cold and then bring it into the hot.
Right, unless you have really good production insurance.
Yeah, there was a bunch of the guys who were on my crew looking at me like, oh, what a moron. But you think maybe they would have said something before I did it, instead of laughing at me when I'm crying because my lens is broken. You asked me, like, what are some of the things that I would tell people when it comes to making indie films? Or I would tell them, be a plumber, do something that actually is worthwhile, and you'll make money.
Come on now, that's not true. It is worthwhile. Look, it's people like us who are terminally creative and artists, right? You can say that all day long, right? I tell people the same thing. My son looks at me and says, hey, I want to make a movie. I say, well, God, please no. And I understand why my mom looked at me and said, oh, God, please no, now. But
making a movie is the hardest, and this is all kidding aside. Making a film is so unbelievably hard because you work your ass off, and then it kind of becomes like a child. Yeah. And then when you're a filmmaker, you watch it, and no matter how good or bad it is, you sit there and you watch it and you go, wow, this is a steaming piece of shit. And every filmmaker I know, even ones who have big blockbuster films, feel this way. And it's very, very difficult to work on something for 40 days of principal photography and then 4 months of post-production to sit there and go, what the hell was I thinking for the last 6 months? But right. Then the great thing is that you release it to like a few people to like see what they think about it. And if you get positive feedback, you're like, wait, maybe I ain't the moron I think I am. So sometimes you swing for the fences and you hope for the best.
Yeah. Sometimes you miss.
Yeah, guys, I got to get to a couple of statements here, if I may. Friend of the show, Chuck Daniels, said, I like the fact that David has an Army of Darkness poster behind him. When I was on, I had an Evil Dead poster behind me. Very cool. What else do we have? Scott was saying earlier, I live not far from the site of the Battle of Richmond in Richmond, Kentucky. Very cool. And yeah, some of those I'm not going to read. All right.
Well, the great thing about, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it was just when I have a thought, if it doesn't come out, it just gets stuck in there, and then it comes out like I speak like in tongues. It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So what I think is kind of cool about Mr. Hush Legacy is that the fans of Mr. Hush are going to be happy to see Mr. Hush again, but it's going to be open to a whole new set of fans of people who are Civil War buffs, because I did the research, and everything down from like the uniforms and the swords and the locations are exactly what they're supposed to be, the time of day, the weather. And there's a segment in the film where Jonathan Stark my character, is writing his wife essentially a goodbye letter. And when I was writing that, it was extremely poignant to me. And I realized that it should be poignant because of the climate of the way I said this earlier. I don't mean to, to go back and rehash the same thing, but I think that's what's kind of important about this little short. And I think that's what's going to make it transcend being, just a horror genre or horror crowd type of film. But, who knows?
Well, and I want to get back to talking about Mr. Hush too, the legacy and the original, because what I want to talk about, and just to finish up what we were talking about before, I made a film once, and I had a screening for a bunch of people, and I went outside because I could never watch my stuff with anybody, and I started counting the people who were leaving, and I was like, well, maybe I should try something else with my life, but that didn't work out. But to get back to the Mr. Hush, so what drives you? What drove you? The creative in you. What is this thing you said that just a minute ago? You said you get a thought in your head, you got to get it out. We've said that even a couple of times in the pre-show lobby tonight. What is that thing that has to get out? You've got this idea, this Mr. Hush. You got to get it created. How do you go from? This is a question I like to ask a lot of people, and I really think I'm going to like your answer for this. So. How do you go from a thought to a completed film?
It's funny because I spent the most of my adult life as a celebrity bodyguard, hanging around some of the most famous people in the world. And when I was approaching my 40th birthday, yes, believe it or not, I'm over 40. When I was approaching my 40th birthday, it's kind of the kind of job that you really can't do once you hit a certain age because you become old and fat. That's kind of what happened to me. And I see all these creative people doing all these creative things that they really love and that that they're having great successes with. And I said, Dave, if you don't do this now, you're never going to do it. So I wrote a script back in 2010 for Mr. Hush, and I reached out to all my celebrity friends who I've met throughout the years and said, hey, I wrote the script. I want to make this picture, and would you be willing to read the script? And it's very strange because when you don't know this, it's a great lesson to learn. When you make a film, it's kind of like a big party that everybody wants to be invited to. So I wrote this script, and when I was a kid back in the mid 80s, Fright Night came out, and I thought Fright Night was the greatest movie ever. And when I was 15, I remember my brother. It came out on August 2nd, 1985, and why I remember this is because it was my 15th birthday, August 2nd, and I was enamored with Stephen Jeffries' character, Evil Ed. I thought that was one of the coolest parts I ever seen in film. And I really related to the creepy little high school guy because I was the creepy little high school guy. And then, fast forward, 25 years later, I'm sending Stephen Jeffries a copy of my Mr. Hush script. And he's like, oh, sure, Dave, I'd love to do it. And I was just like, really? So, it's just those kind of synergies that come together. Brad Lurie, who played Michael Myers, and he played in one of the X-Men movies. I was a big fan of his, and I asked him if he wanted to be the lead. He jumped right on board. I asked Steve Dash, who is best known as Jason Voorhees in Friday the 13th, Part 2, and if he wanted to be involved, and he came on board. Then I gave my pal Huey Lewis a call and asked him if he wanted to do the soundtrack song, and they all jumped on board and did the Mr. Hush theme for me. So, it was just a synergy of, it's like a big snowball. You get on top of a hill and you make a little snowball, and you roll it down the hill, and it becomes a big snowball, and you get squished by it by the time you hit the bottom.
That sounds like an absolute trip, man.
Yeah, it was great. It was a small $200,000 movie that we made in Northeast Pennsylvania. But then Kino Lorber, which is one of the more prestigious indie labels, picked it up. And one of the great things about it is that Redbox picked it up. Yeah. And when Redbox picks up a film, that's between 30 and 35,000 units right off the top.
Yep.
So it was beautiful in that Redbox picked it up, Netflix picked it up, We were honored to be one of only 50 films that are put in the Margaret Herrick Library in Hollywood, which is the Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences Library. Every year they pick 50 films to put in their core archives. And they seen Mr. Hush out at the Lamley Theater in Hollywood and reached out to us and asked to put, our silly little, B horror movie in the Motion Picture Academy's core archives. I mean, it's just beyond bizarre. How all these things kind of just happen.
So it's now a part of history forever.
Yeah, if anybody who's watching this is in Hollywood, head out to the Margaret Herrick Library and go to the core collection section, and you could see a copy of our script, our movie poster, and a copy of the DVD, which is now preserved forever. So I'm just like, wow, yeah. But it's funny. I made the movie, and I knew the release date was coming out. And my family and I were driving down to Disney, which was the movie came out in August, and every August my family drives from Northeast Pennsylvania to Disney. And we stopped in Fayetteville, North Carolina, because the car was having an issue. So I was all wired because it was late at night. My family and I were in a pouring rainstorm, and the car was breaking down. So we pulled into a hotel, and in the hotel, in the parking lot, was one of those Walmart supercenters. So I put my wife and daughter to bed, and I was all wired from driving all day. I said, honey, I'm just going to take a stroll through the Walmart and pick up like a Powerade or something. I walk over to Walmart, and at 2:00 in the morning, they're assembling the end cap for a Mr. Hush. And I was like, really? Somebody outside of like Pennsylvania is going to see this movie? So I thought that was pretty cool. Those are the little things that make you happy when you do these things.
Those are the things. I mean, I remember when I watch anything I've done, I remember every conversation I had around the shot, around every shot or every edit or anything I ever had to argue with anybody about. Right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now you've gone on this roller coaster, and now here we are, and you've made this short Mr. Hush legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And this had to be, tell me about this production. Tell me about the actual production, the physical production of this. Was this just something that you personally had to get out and you just went and did it?
Yeah, it was literally Mr. Hush was property of Kino Lorber for 7 years. And I recently got my property back. And nothing bad to say about Kino Lorber. They did great things with the movie, and it was an enormous success. But they had the U.S. and Canada. So I am taking Mr. Hush and now going to put it on a VOD platform and make it available worldwide in 170 million homes. And as a little extra bonus for people who are going to, the movie is 7 years old, so I'm hoping to, get new fans. As a little bonus for people who rent or download the film now, they get Mr. Hush Legacy with it.
Right. Okay, so now let's talk about what you just said. You said that you got your rights back because a lot of people might not know this. A lot of people who watch this might not know this, and this is part of the point of the Indie Brigade too. So you say after 7 years you got your rights back. What people don't realize, a lot of people don't realize, is that basically when you're a creative or a terminal creative or a filmmaker, the rights of your properties are basically like your 401k.
Absolutely.
You get those, you get your rights back, and then you can resell them every 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is. You can get, and that's how a lot of filmmakers, that's how a lot of people, in the fringe in the indie world continue. They're basically their 401k investment in their future. So, but you said that you've now taken it back, and they kept the U.S. and Canada, you said?
No. They only had the U.S. and Canada.
Oh, okay.
So I am now taking it and making it available worldwide.
Okay, so now you just went and made your own VOD deal.
Yes.
Which is something that you can do, and that's something that a lot of indie filmmakers, also I think find to be a super gray area is distribution. I've got this film. How do I get it out there? How do I get it so the world can see it?
The funny thing is that in 2019, and I don't mean to sound like a schmuck or a prick, but it is super easy that if you have something people want to see, it's really simple to get it out there. I mean, Vimeo on demand, a platform that, you can make a movie and put it up tomorrow. If word of mouth, it's available like in every household. If you make a product that people want to see, everybody has access to that. And, so I think the business model of indie filmmakers should be to stay away from, unless you get a distribution deal where there's money up front, or you don't have to sign your soul away for 7 years. You're probably better off self-distributing. That's just my, I've had movies that did well for distributors, and I've had movies that did well for me, that I personally distributed. And it's much more rewarding when you self-distribute. And just in the cases that I've, and friends of mine, I mean, I could tell you horror stories of movies that made $100 million in box office, but the cats who made the movie seen absolutely nothing of it because creative financing, at the Weinstein Corporation, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, what is it like as the filmmaker? So you write it, you come up with the money, you direct it, you can pretty much expect to keep about 10% of your movie.
Oh yeah,
see, because it's going to be so far on the back of everybody else that you promised everything to get the movie made, and then behind all the stuff that you didn't promise, but it was between the lines in the agreements or whatever. So, and
there are also things that you never expect that are kind of horrifying. I turned my film into the distributor, and for some bizarre reason, they thought that making my poster art, my DVD and Blu-ray art, exactly like another film was going to, in some way, be a smart decision. But in retrospect, perhaps it was, because it made a tremendous controversy around my film. But I thought the film stood for itself. And when the film came out, before anybody even got a chance to see it, it was put on IMDb like 6 weeks before. All the fans from that film went on Mr. Hush and gave us like a 1 rating in protest of our poster art. Yeah. And it's just stuff like that is just so silly. Like, if the fans realize that the filmmaker has nothing to do with the marketing, especially if it's released through an established distributor, that it's things like that that are hard to swallow when it happens. But
yeah, and it's things like that people don't generally realize too. I once did a film and I had a phenomenal artist do a whole series of posters and all this artwork and everything. Turned it all in, and they released it with some bullshit cover they used like stock photography on, and and I had no say.
Yeah.
And, you have no say. You once you get to a certain point, you have no say. So but then you run into there's this whole kind of thing where no matter what you tell people, there's that mental kind of bar in every filmmaker's head that they want to get their own distribution deal. Maybe they won't learn until they go down that road. So, I don't know that you or I could say the things confidently that you said and that I agreed with if we hadn't been down the negative road with the big distributors or the distribution companies or sales agencies. Just, and I think that might be a lesson everybody has to learn for themselves. But, it's a really shitty lesson to have to learn.
No, absolutely. Because when you make a film like the first Mr. Hush, the last number I got between video stores and red boxes, it sold over 45,000 units. And you think, wow, at 10, 12, 14 bucks a pop, that's an enormous amount of money. Sure. But sadly, there are very creative financiers at these distribution houses. And I may never have a film that is that successful again. But if I knew then what I know now, I would have probably done things differently.
Well, sure. Okay, so let me ask you, would you rather have a film that had better numbers and you got paid nothing, or would you rather get paid and have a movie that doesn't really get the numbers?
I would. With me, it's always about being proud of the work,
right.
But I would like to also, have at least some taste of the success that the film, garnered. But yeah. It is what it is.
Hey, man, I never saw a dime from a few things. And you get mad about it and pissed off about it, and you spend a while. Oh, I'm going to get my money, and then you're like, I'll just make something else.
Hey guys, I got to bring up one comment if I may, because it's kind of cool. It's from Joe McParlin saying, "This is a master class of indie filmmaking. Thank you. Love the advice."
Oh,
cool.
Keep plugging. Many years ago, Bruce Campbell told me, just work your doughy little ass off as far as making horror films. And I never really thought my ass was doughy until Bruce told me it was. But it's really just one of those, if you're not doing it because you love the genre or because you have a story to tell, or because if you're doing it because you want some notoriety, or if you want, financial success, it's probably not the best motivations to do it, honestly.
No, that's go be a plumber or do something else.
Yeah, because the people who go in with those type of aspirations, you can usually see it in their work. My work is everything I do is got a signature style of mine. I'm very slow in pacing. I'm very deliberate. I set up my setups almost like a filmed play, and that's just my style. I think what sells a movie to me personally is performance and storytelling. So I will, if I have good actors, I will set up the camera and let them tell the story. I'm not into jump cuts. I'm not into CGI. I'm into good storytelling, and I'm into at the end when people watch the film, they say, "Wow, that was, I learned something, or touched me," or that's kind of the only reason I do this.
And that's the right reason to do it. That inner creative that won't be quiet. It won't stop until you make something. It is literally, there's a reason I say I'm terminally creative. If I was in this for the money, there's a million ways to go get paid if that's what you want to do. I've never done anything creative for the money. Sometimes I wish it was easier to make a living wage being an artist, but but this stuff is something that it's in your blood. And that's what everybody who's chiming in here, Chuck, who was on our first show, and Scott, who was on our first show, and Devin and some other people who were chiming in on the comments. We all do what we do because we don't really have a choice, and everything else around it is just filler.
No, absolutely. And what I'm most proud of, when I look at my IMDb, Mr. Hush is my loving ode to Fright Night, which is like my favorite movie of all time.
Right.
My second film, Middle Village, is a loving documentary about the town I grew up in. It just kind of holds, the film is about nostalgia, and it's not specifically about the town I grew up in, but it's about a simpler time when we used to go out and play stickball and skitch and put baseball cards in us, something that everybody could relate to. And Mr. Hush Legacy is a continuation of the story of Mr. Hush. And my film Wit's End is about a father who will do just about anything to get home to his wife and his daughter that he loves deeply. And if anybody who watching this knows me personally or follows me on Facebook, they know that first and foremost I'm a husband and a dad. So it's all like everything I ever done is directly kind of responsible or surrounded by the things that affect me personally.
Well, and that's the mark of an actual artist, somebody who lived their life, but it's almost like the artist drives the ship, Everything else is there to just, it's your life, but it's your artist living it. And, I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's kind of how I feel a lot of times, and wife and son, and it's the same thing. And everything I do that's creative, I feel like I'm trying to do it for the family, and I'm trying to, even if I'm doing it to create something that I've got to create, I'm trying to do it in a way that's going to represent, well for the people that I love, because those are the people that love and support me and put up with my crazy ass. So, okay. Well, listen, man.
I got to interrupt for one moment, if I may, because I got a couple of things I want to ask before I go back down. I got to get some things ready for our next guest. But David, I don't know if you want to talk about the end of Mr. Hush legacy and the dedication. And
Sure.
And you also mentioned Fright Night, and you were in something pertaining to Fright Night. So if you would like to speak about those for a moment while I go down and take care of business.
Absolutely. It was nice seeing you again, Joe.
Nice seeing you. Thank you.
As Joe just had mentioned, the Mr. Hush Legacy, which is released on VOD next Thursday, is a loving tribute. And at the end of the film, we say in loving memory of the great Steve Dash, who passed away sadly last December. And everybody who worked with him on Mr. Hush loved him dearly. So yeah, it was nice to dedicate, something that we're so happy and so proud of to Mr. Dash, who was kind of a horror icon and just a great guy. So that's what he was talking about as far as the dedication. So when you guys see Mr. Hush Legacy, please watch through the end credits to see what Joe was talking about. And the Fright Night project that he brought up was a documentary called "You're So Cool, Brewster." It was a multi-disc set that was released in England that Tom Holland, the director and writer of Fright Night himself, was involved in. I think he was the executive producer. And they do a segment of the parallels of Mr. Hush and of Fright Night. So it was awesome to be a part of that, to be a part of something that I loved so much as a kid. And now I call many of the people from Fright Night dear friends of mine. Stephen Jeffries is a dear friend of mine. In fact, this is a cool story. Stephen ran the New York Marathon, and he came in like the top 10% for his age group. He beat New York Rangers icon Mark Messier in time, which I thought was pretty cool.
Very cool.
Yep. And I've become dear friends with Amanda Burse. So it's just so cool that when you get any kind of establishment in the business and people that you idolized or looked up to as a kid, now on your speed dial or sleeping in your guest room couch, it's just really cool.
Yeah, I know it trips me out sometimes when my phone rings. So listen, one more question for you real quick. What's next for Mr. Hush? I mean, is this something that you feel like is going to be a permanent kind of story palette for a while with you? Is it, every once in a while you might have a Mr. Hush idea and then just kind of drop this stuff?
The truth of the matter is, unless some compelling story I want to tell comes to me, no, I mean, this could be it. I mean, this just was a happy coincidence of a story I wanted to tell. I wanted to fill in some of the back history of Mr. Hush, seeing that he's, been around for hundreds and hundreds of years. I wanted to do something that was specifically dated, and rooted in real history. And, I mean, comic books and graphic novels and that kind of stuff. A lot of people have asked, do one of those. But if something, pops into this warped, frustrated mind of mine, perhaps I'll revisit Mr. Hush. But for the time being, I think Legacy is going to have to just kind of stand on its own for a bit.
Cool.
And when's the next festival?
Mr. Hush Weekend of Fear. It's so funny. The one we did last October at Wild West City was the first ever interactive convention where it was a haunted Western town and a convention, and people thought it was like the greatest thing. We had like the Headless Horseman ride through town and cowboy shows and monsters and werewolves and zombies. And but sadly, my first job and my first passion is to work on motion pictures. So doing conventions is extremely time consuming. So I couldn't tell you, but I mean, maybe next October. I don't know.
Very cool. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on tonight, man. It's really been cool.
It was absolutely my pleasure. And if you guys will do me a favor, your next guest, Ernie O'Donnell, is a dear friend of mine. So please say hello for me. And Ernie's film, everybody out there, 100 Acres of Hell. It's a great, great film. I know a lot of the people who are involved in that movie. They work their asses off to deliver a great picture. So everybody watch Mr. Hush Legacy on VOD and then watch 100 Acres of Hell and make a great double feature.
Hey, that sounds good. All right, David. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you for having me, gentlemen, and I'll be honored to be on your show whenever you like.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Good night, gentlemen.
Bye.
That was cool. Very informative and some great information based on the comments we have here. So exactly what you were looking for. Let's, without further ado, get Ernie on if I can just find him. Give me a second. There he is. And with a really kick-ass shirt, apparently.
Ernie. What's up, man? Hey, guess what, Joe? I think he's muted.
Hey, guess what? I think you're right.
What?
Let's get his name up there and everything.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
How's it going? Nice shirt.
Yeah, let's see the shirt, man.
Oh, yeah, that's the shirt that was given to our Indiegogo people and my good longtime friend Walt Flanagan from the people may know him from Comic Book Men and a bunch of Kevin Smith movies. Created this lovely thing on the bottom for us as a favor to me. So Walt's a good dude.
Awesome. Well, it's a very cool shirt. So since you already brought up the Kickstarter, tell us about all of that. Tell us about the whole. Just go ahead. Fill us in on 100 Acres of Hell, man. Everything.
Yeah, so 100 Acres of Hell is as referring back to the marathon that Dave was talking about, is the marathon for us. It's almost 9 years in the making. I got on board about 6 years ago.
Jeez.
It's typical indie stuff. Money was there, money disappeared, money came back, money disappeared. And a lot of that is probably because, certain people involved are a little green at the moment, but that's how you learn these things, man. You got to go through these trials and tribulations of indie filmmaking to figure some of these things out. But at the end of the day, my boy Jason Kerner, Ed McKeever, and Gene Snitsky really worked their asses off to find some money and to get this thing rolling. And then they contacted me, Jason Kerner, my executive producer, who created the movie 100 Acres of Hell. That's his baby, pretty much. Reached out to me and asked if I'd co-star in the movie. It gave me a great role playing Morgan Childs. Which I was very, being in the position I'm in, knowing who I know, I kind of get a little leery sometimes because people do send me scripts and projects and things like that. I always think that there's maybe a backdoor reason to it. But with Jason, since I knew him from school and we kind of roamed in the same circles, I gave it a read. It was really good. Then they did a redraft, and then it got better. And then they decided to have, which is a smart thing to do for indie filmmakers, just so you have all your ducks in a row, is to have weekly meetings about production, pre-production, what you have to get, location, costs, who's taking care of what, write everything down, have your computers there, log everything, which is very important, paperwork, contracts. And since I got brought on board, I brought a couple other people with me as far as actors, and they were SAG. So they were willing to go the SAG route, which was good for me, or else I couldn't be a part of the project. Right. But once I sat in on a meeting or two, and they kind of, being around the film industry for about 25 years now, you don't realize how much you learn just being on set and just being friends with people that are in the industry doing this on a higher level. They kind of realized that I knew a little bit more than I thought I knew and asked me to come on as a producer, which was great. I will admit, like Dave said before, and you had commented about, filmmaking is hard, and it's a different type of hard. And I appreciate what you do as far as woodworking. I heard you talking about that and swinging a hammer and stuff. I've done that myself for 30 years.
Yeah, man, it pays the bills.
It pays the bills. That's hard work. Guys, on a roof, guys doing road work, guys on the back of a garbage truck, all this blue collar guys. That's hard work.
Yeah.
Making a film is not hard on that level. It's a different type of hard. And I don't want people to confuse that or downgrade it and say, oh, being a filmmaker or being an actor is so easy. It's a different type of animal. But if you're passionate about it and you like the project you're doing, like I did with 100 Acres of Hell, you go in 100%. And I told Jason that from the beginning. I said, if you bring me on, I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to tell you how I feel. I'm going to tell you when I think you're doing something wrong, even though I don't know everything. But I'm going to give you my opinion.
Right.
I hope you're okay with that, because if I'm a producer, that's what I'm here to do. If I see something going wrong, I'm going to say something. And sometimes they'd agree with me and sometimes they wouldn't. But at the end of the day, like I said, almost, 9 years in the making, we brought home a film that looks like $1 million picture. And we called in a boatload of favors.
Yeah.
I mean, tons. I mean, as you guys probably, I sent you a screener and you probably watched it. I mean, we got a helicopter in the damn movie.
Yeah, I know. I saw that.
I mean,
I did watch it.
I
watched it today. I did watching today.
Right.
So,
I mean,
and it does. It looks. I'm not sure what your budget was, although I know what Joe told me, but I don't know if you want to disclose that. But
no, I have no problem. I mean, we're in the range of somewhere in the area of between 60 and 70,000.
Yeah, and it literally looks like you spent like 1.2.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, we called in so many favors. I mean, Gene Snitsky called in favors. Myself called in a whole bunch of favors. Ed McKeever, Stacy Toy, Marky Tenenbaum, Jason Kerner, Joel Ruda, all the people involved helped on some level. They wanted to help because they loved the movie. They were passionate about it. And wherever local people were just so great and generous up in PA to do things for us or to give us stuff. And same down in South Jersey, down in the Galloway, Atlantic City area were wonderful. And I'm telling you what, dude, we were working late at night. This was not a 9 to 5 during the day kind of shoot.
Oh no.
It's starting at 9 o'clock at night or 8 o'clock at night, waiting for the sun to go down and then starting to shoot and go down, early in the morning. And this was like in November. Yeah. And it was cold. So you got to remember, and I tell these people, because some of the people on the set, and they were all great, but there were a few that said something about, oh, well, we're doing all this work. And I'm like, yeah, you're doing all this work to learn how to get in the films. Nobody's going to hire you in the industry. So this is ground level. This is where you start. You start at the indie film, pictures, and hopefully somebody hires you and has enough faith into you to give you some work and let you do something. A lot of it may be grunt work. A lot of it may not be glorious. It may be shitty conditions, but you know what? At the end of the day, you appreciate it and you learn it. And the people that can tough it out for those long days, the long hours, sitting around, not the greatest food, because we don't have that money that, Universal has or Paramount has or Sony, Get us some more pizzas, get us some more Jersey Mike subs. I mean, go to Costco and get a couple crates of this and that.
Yeah. Or we're in a small town, go to Walmart, get some Dr.
Right. And then
drink off soda and like it.
Right. And there was multiple times that Gene, for instance, Gene Snitsky would call in favors at some of the local places in PA that he was very friendly with, where we would go there with some of the cast and crew and they'd feed us.
Sure. Yeah.
So you could tell right off the bat who was passionate about filmmaking and who wasn't.
Yeah. It's, it's like Fight Club,
Yeah.
Stand outside.
Yeah.
Until you're allowed in.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, I want to go back to something you said, it is hard, and it is a different kind of hard than swinging a hammer or running a road crew. But when you're in physical production, it's just as physically hard as any one of those other jobs. But what a lot of people don't realize is that, like you said, it's years and years and years of this emotional sort of up, down, and these false starts and this, like, oh, we're going, oh, shit, what's on TV? Hey, guess what? I just got off the best phone call with the investor. Oh, we're all good. I'm sending over agreements. We're going to paperwork. Hey, what happened with those contracts? I don't know. I think the investor got swallowed by the earth or something.
Yeah, and then you realize you notice that he's in the Bahamas or Bermuda somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
Like yacht.
With his brand new BMW that he shipped around or something.
Exactly. I mean, the whole indie world is just a whole different animal. I mean, back in the day when, I was starting out as an actor, there was no avenues for us. I mean, backstage was like the only thing.
Yeah. Back when I was starting, there was nothing. I wasn't interested in being in front of the camera. There was nothing. The only experience that the only exposure I ever had was when my dad would take me to set with him when I was a little kid.
Right.
And so I started making the most of it, and I'd kind of wander off because he was busy being, the director guy. And I would wander off and pick up a cable and wander it over to the electric department, kind of hang out there for a little while. And,
if you didn't get yelled at by the union?
Yeah, and if I did,
don't touch that cable, kid. What's wrong with you? I don't give a shit who your dad is.
Yeah, or if I did, I'd walk over to another department and be like, I think you dropped this. Hang out as long as I could, just to kind of, and I started learning that way. And then when I started out working on other people's things, I actually did it under my mother's maiden name of McKim, because I didn't want people to think that my dad was out there making phone calls for me, because he wasn't.
Right.
So, so I came up that way, and I came up doing the shittiest of the shitty jobs, man. And I learned how to crew. I learned how to crew hard, and I learned a respect for the crew that, I got two pieces of advice. It's funny about this industry that are both so painfully true. It's not even funny. Number one is it's the only town, business, industry, whatever, right? But hey, Hollywood is the only town where you can die from encouragement. And a well-fed crew is a happy crew.
Damn straight.
You know what I mean?
You got that right.
If you got to skimp on something, like maybe you try to skimp and not use a crane for 3 days so that your crew can have a pasta bar on Fridays or something.
Oh, I learned that instantly working a lot with, my buddy Kevin Smith. His food is just phenomenal on every set, regardless of what the budget is. The food is always top notch, always takes care of the crew. That's number one priority. Because like you said, you have a happy crew and a happy cast, they'll go all the way for you.
Yeah, they'll hang out all day long, and some people won't even report as much overtime, or I mean,
yeah,
people aren't pissed off if you feed them well.
Yeah,
that's not like, hey, it's second meal. These pizzas got delivered at 3 p.m. Second meal's at 10 p.m. There's some cold pizza left. That's not second meal. That's come in, have food delivered from, if you can't have a caterer, put the effort in. There's got to be somebody on your crew who knows how to cook, or who knows how to cook, and it's not hard to, you know what I mean? Put the effort in. And if you put that effort in, it's funny because I saw that you also did second unit director on 100 Acres. And, it's funny because if you work with that passion every day, it becomes infectious. And if you go out of your way to take care of your crew, and that doesn't mean just feeding them well, that means, help the grips carry their C-stands back.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the day, I don't know if you can do this anymore. You probably can't do this anymore. But at the end of every day, there was a case of beer on the grip truck.
Yeah. I don't know about that. Well, nowadays, it's a little bit of something that people, I would say, smoke to relax at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's probably more common nowadays.
Yeah, but I mean, I would have that stuff delivered to the trucks at the end of the day. And every truck had a case of beer, whatever they wanted, or and it was just, and people would show up and work on stuff like they cared about it creatively,
right?
And like I was lucky enough to work with a dolly grip who worked with my dad back in the day, a guy named Bamba, and I loved working with him so much because he had been on more sets than I could even probably count. And you know what I mean? It had more experience. And so when your dolly grip comes up to you and says, hey, you need to rethink this shot because of X, Y, and Z, and your first AD is a little, wet behind the ears, and he's saying, what are you doing? You're gonna screw this up or screw that up. I'm gonna listen to the dolly grip because he's gonna tell me, if you really want this shot up on that side of the hill, it's gonna take me 3 hours to level, 200 feet of track.
Right.
That's something the first AD doesn't know.
No,
So,
you got to listen to your crew.
Yeah.
They're the heartbeat of the set.
yeah.
I mean, they really are. I mean, they are the glue that keeps the set running.
Yeah.
So if you don't listen to them, you're going to have a problem. I mean, yeah, you can be a little persistent. Sometimes, some people, not always, but there are a few here and there that will get a little lazy. Oh, I don't want to do that. They don't want to set this up. We don't want to do this. Okay. I get you don't want to do it. But you know what? At the end of the day, that's what I want. And, sometimes you got to push it a little bit to get that magic. And I get it. But there's a way of going about doing it. But in the indie industry, it's different. So as you said before, I was, a second unit director on some shots, but I was also on the ground holding lights while we were doing shots. While, when I wasn't acting, I was in there doing other stuff. I was holding lights. I was set dressing, the cabin, like the cabin you saw in the beginning, the 70s.
Sure.
I set dressed that whole cabin. I went there the day before, did it all. When we were done, I went back, broke it all down. Those are the, I just want people to realize that when you work on these indie sets, that sometimes it's not just being, well, I'm hired just for an actor.
Right.
If you go in as a role and you have some sort of investment in it and you're passionate. If they need help, you help. I mean, don't sit back and just, I'm only here to just do this. And that's it. That's not how you're going to learn.
We don't have the luxury of unions,
right?
And the luxury or the whatever, but but you're absolutely right. And I shot an entire feature film in 5 nights with a crew of like 4 people.
Wow, man, that's
what I mean. And the actors were doing everything, and it's the same thing, and that's how you come up. That's how you learn. You go through the hard 24-hour days, 28-hour days, 36-hour days.
And it sucks. It does suck at the moment. Let's be honest. Sometimes it sucks. You're so damn tired. You can't speak right. You're stupid. You're silly. I mean, it's like, okay. But and again, safety is priority. You don't want nobody getting hurt. You do have to find that right moment when you say, okay, we're done.
Right.
And
you have to prioritize. And you
got to prioritize and be smart. But then if you think about it, if everybody pitches in and helps when it's needed, things go a lot smoother. And the indie world is about collaborating with people. And on 100 Acres, everybody was there and collaborated and was a great team. I mean, they were digging ditches. You saw the part where the guy was in the ditch with the spikes.
Yeah.
I mean, that was dug by hand. I mean,
of course it was.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, were animals. A lot of these guys. And my man, Big Ed McKeever, he was an animal. Jason Kerner, I mean, going through the woods with wheelbarrows and fog machines and logs. And I mean, all this stuff being done. It's just, you got to be passionate. If you ain't passionate about your project or the industry, this industry, then you just got to step aside.
Well, you're right. And now the trailer's playing down here. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah, I see it, man. I love it.
Oh, so tell me this. So this is, how big was this crew? How big was this production? Because with the budget that you said that this film was made for, the look of this film. How did you guys achieve the look of this film on such a shoestring?
Well, the good thing is it's a SAG Ultra, it's a low budget SAG, was it low budget modified SAG?
Yeah. Is it still Ultra? They change it every once in a while.
Yeah, they change it all the time. And they changed the rates, but thank God the rate was low, so they were able to hire me and a couple other Eileen Dietz, who's in the movie, and a couple other. I think we had maybe 4 or 5 SAG actors, so that wasn't that expensive, and we kept the schedule really tight. And a lot of people were local, so we kept the costs down there. And like I said, we got a lot of donations and from people and everybody doing favors. But as far as the look of the movie, I mean, the way we shot it was obviously in November and April were the 2 times we shot it. So the look of the woods, the lighting was key.
Sure.
Where everything was lit makes that movie, and the fog machines that we used by hand and with machines. I mean, we were doing everything. At one point, we had one of our crew hooked up a tractor that he had and put mocked up a fog machine into the tractor and was running it.
He just froze.
He did freeze. Ruh-roh. Let's see if we...
It's just, to me, Michael James Romeo, this was his first movie that he composed, and he knocked it out of the park. But, we tried to make it simple, a simple thing, and the locations were key too, and the set dressing. When you see old Merle at the convenience store,
yeah,
well, I mean, that was the set we found, and we just added our pieces to it. And same at the diner in Atlantic City and the houses. A lot of these things our team searched out and found, and pretty much, dressed them up. The gates to 100 acres of hell.
Also, if I
That's
mute that.
Yeah, buddy. But the gates to 100 acres of hell, we made that. We mocked all that up.
Well, and see, that's the collaborative thing you're talking about. So, but just so you know, you froze up there for a minute. I think that might have been on my end, but you froze up somewhere between the tractor and the composer.
Oh, yeah. So my guy was running the tractor for the smoke machine just so we could get that circular smoke around the scene. So we couldn't do it by pushing the smoke machine. And poor Jason Kerner almost died trying to do that damn smoke machine. But and he's the executive producer.
Yeah, no,
I'm busting his balls, doing all this stuff. And Ed McKeever, he's behind him doing this. And I mean, like I said, those guys were, humping as much as anybody else, if not the most. But and then I had said that the lighting is key in that whole movie. The lighting really makes the movie. The set locations make the movie. The music by Michael James Romeo was his first time doing a score of a horror movie.
That's awesome.
And I thought he killed it. I really did. I thought it made the whole movie.
I think all the pieces are there. The whole thing comes together beautifully. It's well shot. It's well performed. It looks phenomenal. It looks like a large budget film. It literally looks like you guys spent over $1 million to make this.
Yeah, we hear that a lot, and some of the actors in the movie are first time actors, obviously, because you can't afford the best of the best.
Right.
But at the end of the day, everybody did a really good job. I mean, I was surprised even at Snitsky. I mean, I know he comes from the WWE and all that kind of stuff, but that's a whole different animal. But he performed really well as the lead.
I think everybody really did, and I think the edit is killer, man. The edit is just a great edit, and I loved it. I actually loved watching it. And this shot that Joe has frozen down here. You talked about the lighting, and you talk about this fog. Just to go back to that just really quickly, the lighting is key, but if you look at this shot, and if young filmmakers watching would look at this shot, they'll realize what it means when a cinematographer says that they're not afraid of the dark.
Yeah,
right. That frame is mostly black, but the tone that's set in the darkness of that frame is so powerful. And when you mix it with fog, that a lot of, again, just to throw it out there, fog thickens the atmosphere, even if you're outside.
Oh yeah,
just look at that shot.
If you got a good lighting guy and guys that know how to work that kind of stuff, they can do amazing things.
Yeah.
So the trailer's just over a minute long, I believe. You guys ready for me to pull it up so everybody can see it full frame?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. All right, let's do it.
don't know games.
I did some research. So whatever.
Weekend is back.
But we are here this weekend to I know you smile down.
It's ghost story time. Tell us about Jed Tucker.
Just an urban legend.
He's gonna kill you. Fine.
He's gonna hunt you down and kill you. Hunt you like an animal.
Come on, how could you not want to go see that movie?
Right.
I want to go watch it again right now.
I mean, come on. I'll tell you what, the scene, the end, the epic battle at the end. So I was in charge of, post-production, and the battle scene was we filmed probably about 25 minutes of that. And we cut it down, and because it was just way too much,
Yeah.
But Gene and Jeb Tucker, the killer, who's played by Sam Anawani, the great Samu from the WWE legendary Hall of Famer, kicked the shit out of each other. I mean, there's nothing fake in this movie. There is no CGI, no prop limbs, rocks, cars. This is all legit. This is a legit, fight. You see him?
That's how it be.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't want to give too much away, but they're jumping off of shit.
Oh, I mean, if you're a wrestling fan, you'll appreciate it. And those two really brought it hard. I wish we could have showed the whole battle, but it was just, it was just way too much. It kind of got repetitive to a degree. So that's why, you got to make those choices to edit and cut it and mainly put it together. But it's really epic. And even in that scene, the lighting with the fire and the music is just it's so good. It's great.
Release the uncut fight as a short and monetize the sequel.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll see how the wrestling fans, if they want a little bit more, we can give them little tidbits of that. But and that was done late at night in the cold on the mountaintop. I mean, no mattresses, no pads.
Out against the odds, against nature, against the world. You did what seemingly feels impossible to a lot of people, but you pulled it off.
Well, that's what we were saying before. If you have a team of people around you that are willing to go the distance and really put the time in, the effort, and be passionate about it, I mean, you're going to yell at each other, you're going to hate each other for a lot of times on set, but at the end of the day, you're going to get something hopefully great, and that's something everybody's proud of. I mean, we had our drama. I ain't gonna lie, we had our drama on set. There was a lot of different stuff going on. But we worked through it, man. There was nothing. I told you, this started 9 years ago, and my team, the core team, myself, Ed McKeever, Jason Kerner, and Gene Snitsky, we're not going to let anybody stop us. I mean, I called in so many favors. I mean, Joe knows Stacy Toy, a good friend of mine, went above and beyond. Marky Tenenbaum went above and beyond. Dave Kapler. I mean, there's so many people. I mean, everybody did. Everybody went that extra mile to make this come to fruition. And we're hoping that it pays off. We hope the fans love it. I mean, I know the wrestling fans are going to love it. I know I got a nice following through the View Askew universe, through the films that I do, through Clerks and all that kind of stuff. I play kind of an arrogant, little bit of an asshole. Just a little bit. So, I mean, a little back, people might, say, oh, what is that, Rick Derris a little older or something, or is it his lost brother? But who knows? But, I loved it. We're hoping it does really well. It's hitting theaters. I think it hit theaters today, in limited theaters today. But the big thing is it's going to be on streaming and video on demand on the 22nd. And we got a lot of the big ones. We got Amazon, we got Comcast, DirecTV, Dish, Google, Xbox, Sony. I mean, we're very happy for where it's going. Indican Pictures is putting it on a lot of platforms. So, and it's in the perfect time for Halloween. It's good. And the story is great. I mean, it's a throwback, as you know, to the 80s style slasher.
Yeah,
you see the homage too.
Yeah, there's homages to that. I mean, we want our killer Jeb Tucker to be kind of like, along the lines of the, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers kind of stuff. That's what we're looking to do. But it's funny. The movie started out as like a slaughterhouse type of movie. That was Jason Kerner's main idea when he started conceptualizing this idea of the mutants and Jeb Tucker and the story. But then when he got together one day with Gene Snitsky, they kind of flipped the switch a little bit because Gene had showed him some land. And then they kind of changed the idea a little bit. And then Jay just went off and created a whole different thing based on seeing this preserve type of land that Gene had showed him. And then Jason mocked up a script, wrote something, and then turned it over to one of his screenwriter buddies to put it into a screenplay form. And I got to give him props, man. I mean, it's a good story. And you can't go wrong. Jeb Tucker's just a great name.
Yeah. Look, it's great. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. You know what I mean?
That really, man. That means a lot to us. I mean, we worked really hard on this.
Everything about it I loved. I haven't enjoyed a movie like that.
And there's not one twist, but there's two twists.
Yeah, we've been to some festivals. We've won a decent amount of awards and nominations. But most people like the ending. But we've had a couple people that were like, I don't get it. And I was like, I don't understand why you don't get it.
Yeah.
The movie, it's pretty simple to see what happens.
Yeah,
but it's good. I mean, I love it. This is a great platform to be on to talk about this kind of stuff, since we all are drenched in indie filmmaking. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. We walk around with it stink on us.
Oh yeah. And I was telling Joe, earlier in the week when I was talking to him that even as hard as it was doing 100 Acres and all the bullshit that came with it and the paperwork and the nonsense, I decided to write my own script and do my own short and direct it and produce it just to say, fuck it. Let's see how it is by myself. So I surrounded myself with a good crew and made my own short, which I just released on the festival circuit.
Day.
Yeah, the 7th day. And
too. I watched that. I got to tell you, I had a moment, just one moment, where I was like, "What the fuck is this guy making?" I feel like find you and punch you in the teeth, and then I was okay, good.
Well, Ernie and I spoke about it last night. I was like, I grew up Roman Catholic, and
yeah,
right.
So let's talk about this.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'll do it.
So what made you take this approach? I obviously don't want to give anything away here. Joe's playing the trailer? Yeah. So I don't want to give anything away, but what made you go down this road, and what gave you the perspective from which you told this story? Were you trying to make people like me be like, "Oh, fuck this guy," until the end?
Fuck me or fuck the characters?
Well, I don't know.
I want to know.
I was like, "What the fuck is this guy doing to me?"
You feeling guilty about something? You gotta get something off your chest.
No, and then you pulled it back, and I was like, okay, I don't have to knock his teeth out.
Okay, I think I know where you're going. Okay.
I think you did what you set out to do. Like, you put me off for a minute.
Yeah.
What made you want to take that point of view with subject matter like this?
Well, at the end of the day, it's a thinking piece. I don't want to say it's an artsy film, but it's there to make people think and have a conversation. That's the end game with this. But
all right.
The concept kind of organically happened in a strange way. So Jason Kerner and myself were driving in my work van because he would help me out. He was working for me for a little while he was in between jobs. Because, as a carpenter, we pay well. So he, me and him always wanted to do a short. And we wanted to do a horror. And then we decided, maybe we should do a comedy. And then he came up with the idea of, let's do 3 guys walk into a bar. I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, we could do a comedy, 3 guys walk into a bar. We could do something like that. And I was like, you know what? That's really cool because nobody's really done that. And there's 1,000 ways that joke has been told. Right? So he said that, and as he's talking about it and I'm talking about it, I just stopped because we were in traffic. And I was like, holy shit, dude, I got an idea. He goes, what? And now let me revert back. I had just gotten back from Florida shooting a movie with Kevin called Kilroy is Here. Or Kilroy is here or Kilroy was here. Anyway, Kilroy was here. A horror anthology. Now, I went down there and he had me play 2 roles. I played a priest, like a Baptist type pulpit priest, and then I played a pedophile priest. The pedophile priest is a real scumbag in this, and he gets what he deserves, like they should.
Right.
Yeah. So when that was in my head.
Okay.
And then when Jason said 3 guys walk into a bar, I quickly diverted to 3 pedophile priests walk into a bar. And he looked at me and he goes, you can't do that. You nuts? I was like, well, wait. He's like, I said, well, we can't do it as a comedy because that's a really touchy subject.
Right.
I said, but let me think on it and I'll get back to you. About 3-4 months later, I had a script. Now, I talked to a couple friends of mine. One's a very world-renowned psychotherapist. He teaches at Columbia all over around the world and stuff to people about human feelings and things like that. I let him read it first. And he goes, I like it. Okay. Really? He goes, yeah, I like it. But you need to just tweak this, and that a little bit. So I tweaked it. Then the next test is to have my mother read it.
Oh, God.
Now, my mother is a full-blown Catholic. Still goes to church. Loves the church. I begged her to go see the movie Spotlight with me, but she wouldn't because she was in denial. So I said, Ma, you got to read this script. She goes, what's it about? I was like, just read it, please. I want your opinion. Because she reads every 2 days, she'll read a book. She finishes a book in a day and a half. My mother's like nuts.
Yeah, that was my mom.
Yeah,
too.
they're crazy. So I really value her opinion, plus being a Catholic. And she's my mother. So I kind of got to give her a blessing.
Exactly.
So she read it, and she's like, what is wrong with you? She's like, why are you doing this? And I said, why, Ma? This is true. She's like, this is there's good priests out there, Ernie. There's good priests out there. I was like, yeah, there is. So based on that, she didn't understand it, but she liked it. But what she did make me do, she said to me, when she made that comment about there are good priests out there, she's like, you have to represent the good priest. And I was like, I will, Ma. That's, as you saw in the short, the bartender, Gabe, talks about good priests and what they are and what they mean to children and the society. So that little, dialogue that he says is for my mom. But it actually made a lot of sense and fit in really nice to that. But Yeah, man. I mean, I don't have any personal attachment to anything like that. I don't have any friends. I don't have no family. I've never experienced anything like that. It's just that going to Catholic school, being an altar boy, and just seeing the shit that happens and what's been going on and really what's not being done in that, pedophile, sexual abuse on children. And it's not just children. Mine is basically around children, but it's a lot broader than that. I just touch on a lot of different things and poke people and let them understand this is what's going on. And the ending is to let the audience kind of think about it. Yeah. It's kind of an open ending in a way where it's kind of, you're not sure what happens, but that's where I let my audience make that decision.
Well, I don't think it's going to be a very open-ended, a very open ending to most people who, I assume what I assume.
Yeah.
What I believe to be exactly what happened.
Exactly. And like I want you, the audience, to make the decision.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, for my first time, obviously I'm very critical of myself. But I think it turned out pretty good.
It did. It turned out great.
For my first time at it, and obviously I let Kevin watch it, and he gave me some really good pointers. It originally was 20 minutes, but then he gave me some pointers, and I cut it down to 16, which made it a lot better. So I give him props for giving me a little bit of advice on that. But at the end of the day, again, you got to go back to the crew, the friends that I surrounded myself with to do that short, which we shot in 2 days. Yes, we shot it in 2 days.
How big was your crew?
Including the actors, 10. Wow. That's about it.
That's great. That's pretty great.
Yeah.
2 shoot, 10 people.
Yeah, I mean,
your story.
2 days.
That's really cool. It's great, man. And I'm telling you, I went back and watched it again because I wanted to go back and watch it, knowing I wasn't going to be pissed off with you.
Well, I am so glad I got that reaction out of you, man. That's great. That's great.
It's a hot button nowadays.
Well, it is. But what's funny? As we're shooting some of the scenes, my crew is getting annoyed and pissed off.
Yeah, I would be too.
Because some of them really didn't know what I was going for.
Yeah,
kind of read the script, but once I started doing it, it was like they got it, and they were like, "Holy fuck, we hate this. We hate what's going on here." And they even had a discussion. But what I will say is, to all the indie people out there, is there's nothing wrong, and it's great to open your mind and collaborate with your cast and crew.
That's right.
You gotta take in what they're giving you. You can't dismiss everything, and because some of the stuff that they told me made a huge impact on my decisions on how I shot things or what direction that I was going to go in. So I give them all the props in the world, and they stuck it out too, man. 14-hour days in a bar that had no AC. And it was great. I mean, I can't ask for any better. I mean, again, I had my buddy Jason Kerner on there. He was on there helping out. My good friend Chris Vaughn was on there. Mark Frotto, who shot it and edited it and did the sound. And I brought my buddy Mike Romeo back in from 100 Acres to do the soundtrack. They all knocked it out of the park, and I kept my budget pretty damn low. I mean, really, and it's all SAG. It's all legit.
Yeah,
it's all legit.
Yeah. I'm not even going to ask your budget. If you want to tell us, that'd be great.
No, listen. Again, you got good people around you, friends. You call in a few favors. Even with the SAG, I got it done for under $4,000.
Yeah. Wow. It's crazy what you can do if you actually produce the hell out of your film.
Yes, and it's smart, which I learned from Kevin. to keep your stuff tight, I film most of the movie in one place.
Yeah.
Which saves you tons of money.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it. You're isolated. You don't have too many variables to deal with. It saves tons of money. As long as
you did a great job, man. You really did
appreciate that.
And the name of the bar.
Another example of just
the name of the bar was.
Yeah, you can tell. The name of the bar was originally. I changed that. The first name of the bar I had it as. It was three priests and a bar. And the reason why I went with 3 priests and a bar was just to get in the people's head the joke.
Yeah.
That was the thought. But then I was like, you know what? I really can't. I don't want any comedy.
Yeah, you're like, oh, yeah, not funny.
Not funny. I don't want to bring any comedy into this at all. So I backed off of that, and just on a whim, I came up with a crooked crucifix.
Yeah.
That was perfect.
Wow, you knocked it out of the park, man. You really killed it. And
that.
you know, and it really is just a good example of the nature of what a collaborative spirit can get done.
Oh yeah. I mean,
and that's what I loved about it. And you can see your passion for doing it in it. And I liked that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, is the 20-minute version going to be available?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I like it, but it gives a different perspective. It's a different outcome, I should say. It puts a different spin on it. So I'm not sure how I want to do that. Maybe down the road I might, but right now I'm really happy with the way it turned out. And with the little special feature I put at the ending credits, I think that's a great way to end it.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good. But again, I mean, it's just, I can't talk anymore about indie filmmaking. I mean, I've been doing a lot of it lately, you know, and I'm really happy that I really got into it. I work with my buddy Troy Burbank on a movie called Gone for the Weekend, which is on Amazon right now.
Yes.
It's a full-blown comedy. It's funny as shit. But again, we didn't spend a lot of money.
No, you don't have to.
I mean,
you don't have to.
Again, you gotta, you gotta be smart. That's it. You just gotta be smart and creative. If you're smart and creative, you can do anything, man. There's nothing holding you back. It really is.
Well, listen, Ernie, I hope that you'll join us in our community and help offer your advice.
I definitely will. This is a great platform.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's only like 6 people in the group now, but hopefully that'll grow with each episode and all that stuff.
This is only episode 2.
Now, I was stoked to come on here. I mean, this is nice. This is good.
It's been a pleasure talking to you, and it's been a great night talking to everybody. So,
great panel tonight, man. It was good stuff.
Yeah, man. So listen, I'm hoping this is going to be the beginning of a long friendship, and we're gonna probably jump off here now, call it a night. But I wanted to thank you again so much. Is there anything you want to tell people about before we wrap it up here? Tell people where to go to check out 100 Acres. Tell them where to go to check out Seventh Day. Everything else you got going on.
As of right now, Seventh Day is on the is hitting the festival circuits. So you know how that goes. We got to wait for our notifications, things like that.
Yeah.
So once that gets picked up, I'll announce that on social media. I'm on Facebook just as straight up Ernie O'Donnell. On Twitter, it's OEOdonnell7, and then I'm on Instagram as OD Blues. But you can follow our page, 100acresofhell.com, for all the latest information. It's in limited theaters right now, but the big thing is October 22nd. It's getting released. It's going to be all over the place. Like I said, it's going to be on Amazon, iTunes, Sony, Vudu, Google, Verizon, Xbox, Fandango. I mean, it's going to be all over. So I really would mean a lot if everybody could give it a look. It's well worth it. You have a good time, and support indie filmmakers. That's all. That's the big thing.
Awesome, man. Well, listen, thank you so much again, and hopefully you'll come back and talk to us again, because I'd like to talk to you more about the business of the distribution and the business side of filmmaking a little bit more next time.
Oh yeah, I could give you some hell stories about that, brother.
Yeah, well, let's work it out and get you on again.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And so much, man. You have a great night and a great rest of your weekend.
I appreciate it. You guys are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Take care.
See you soon.
All right. So before we leave, I'm gonna put David on the spot because he's still in the background, and we didn't quite do the same with him. If we may do that now.
You know what? A good idea for this show is that at the end you should have like the Brady Bunch vibe, because we're all kind of like, hey, hi. You should put all of your guests on the screen to kind of have like a jam session. Is Ernie still on? Is he gone?
No, he's gone. So he can like look down on you.
Yeah, you go. No, he'd be like, I think he'd be over here.
Side. Oh yeah.
Hey, you got that $20 you owe me, Ernie? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was our mistake. We did not ask you. Where can we find you and your projects on social media? I'm putting you full frame. Go.
I actually thought I did.
Sorry, George.
Sorry. I said I'm actually thought I did ask you, so I'm sorry if we didn't. So,
the problem when you interview me is I never shut the hell up. So
yeah, well, I ask stupid questions sometimes.
No, you're actually a really interesting interview.
I'm like doing like 30 different things at once. So
let's both talk at Joe at the same time. Hey, Joe. Joe, what are you doing over there, Joe?
Well, you could see me anytime at the drive-up window at Wendy's, which is my regular employment. No. You can find me on MrHush.net. You can find Mr. Hush on Facebook, Mr. Hush the Movie. What's in the Movie, which is coming out later this year with Brian and Scott from Clerks. It's funny how we're all kind of like in the same community. I mean, Ernie actually is a dear friend of mine. It would have been a funny story because he lost a baseball bet to me.
Uh-oh.
And he had to shell out $100 to me. It was awesome. It was literally like when he opened his wallet, Morgs came out, and it was a bet on baseball, and the Yankees lost. So it was just so much. It was just
so awesome. It wasn't recent.
No, it was. I think it was last season actually. That's why if he was still on, I'd be more than happy to let him try to win that box of ZD back.
Oh, but, wait. Oh, shit.
So,
and you know what? We're going to roll with this for a second.
Oh, there he is.
These guys, the stage. Just let him run out the clock.
Come on, man. He's a Mutts lover.
I was going to give you a chance to win your dough back, brother.
Oh, come on. You wouldn't touch me this year. We're like crushing it. Come on now. You guys aren't even a thought.
I'm not even talking about the Mets. I will bet you on the Houston Yankee series.
I'm trying to get them both on the same time.
The Houston Yankee series. All right. So you're saying Houston's going to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Yankees, are from
no way. There's no way, dude. No way.
Well, if you want to IM me privately, we can put a little wager on it.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you right now. We can do half of what we did last time. How's that?
Done.
All right.
Done.
I don't want people to know how big,
Yeah. It took me 3 shifts at Wendy's. If I lost that, I would have been in big trouble.
Yeah. I'm gonna come by to Wendy's and get a chili from you.
The next Frosty's on me.
Hey,
wait, you guys gotta have the freaking. You're screwing the pooch here, Joe. You gotta have the Brady Bunch thing going on.
Yeah, I'm trying to. George dropped out on me for some reason, so I'm trying
this is probably the point where everybody's dropping out.
Yeah, well. George has to go back and play with his wood, Dave.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
Ernie, your short looks fantastic, all kidding aside.
Thanks.
And I saw Bob Senkowitz who's one of the stars of your short in A Few Good Men on stage a couple years back. Brilliant choice in casting him, and I really look forward to seeing that film.
Well, hook up with me. I can send you a link to it.
Oh, that'd be awesome. And I see you got your Bizarre AC poster behind you.
Oh, the original. I've had that since day one. Yeah, the original one.
If you turn it around, there's a really handsome guy on the other side.
I know. I don't want to look at you when I come down to my room here.
Especially when you're working with your wood.
Yeah, exactly. In my private little lounge here.
All right.
You got the something about Mary hair going on right now, brother.
Yeah,
What
I
happened?
was kind of curious about that.
Yeah, it wasn't like that when the whole show, and then you go off for a minute or two, and all of a sudden you got the big hair gel thing going on.
Like, that's because I think I was getting George all bent out of shape when we were talking about pedophiles and little children. So
Now you know why he. You know why he bailed. He's somewhere right now loading his gun, Ernie. I would be afraid.
We're all going to hell.
All right, gentlemen. That was like.
Thanks, Joe.
Can't even.
You're a good guy, Joe. I like you.
Well, I appreciate that very
You know what
much.
he's saying? That's him saying, I don't like you, Dave. Joe's great, but Dave, you suck.
Dave?
I would never.
Go Yankees.
Oh.
Thank you. Go Yankees. That's right. That's right.
All right.
You have to have us back on someday to see who actually won the bet, and so that the other guy can rub the other guy's nose in it.
Uh-huh.
That would be spectacular. Gentlemen, I am going to call it a night. I appreciate both of you being on again. Also, James King and George is back.
Hey, we could have that Brady Bunch moment. He's like the Ann B. Davis. No, he's not there.
He's
His complexion. I think.
He's
there he is.
He went to
We
go
lose Joe now.
I've been sitting here watching you guys. So you haven't heard me either?
No, you were MIA.
My daughter's dog is barking all the shit.
I was not MIA. I was sitting right here.
There's our Brady Bunch moment.
See?
Right in front of my Rise poster and my...
Hello, Dave. Hello, Joe.
I'm going the wrong way.
George.
Wait.
Hey!
Oh, it's this way.
It's opposite, yes. You got to look down to Joe. It was up. So you go, oh.
I always thought that was weird that they do that. Like they did that little head nod to each other. I mean, they're family. Like, do they not know each other? All
of a sudden, Ernie's like showing us all the stuff when he goes down to his room.
Hey, did any of you guys get the Crisco joke in the Brady Bunch remake movies?
I haven't seen it in 20 years. So.
It was the girl, the lady who played Alice in the Brady Bunch remake movies hands the father. I think it was Gary Cole who played Mike Brady in the remakes. A thing of Crisco, and says, "I know you use this." And in real life, Robert Reed. I'm not. If you guys don't know, I'm just going to leave it alone.
No. I get where you're going with it.
So the indie film industry,
for those up-and-coming filmmakers who want to know what Crisco is really used for,
that's right. It's a track lubricant for the camera.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's absolutely. So we can all agree.
That's right. Actually, we could use it. We could use it to polish Joe's head.
I beg your pardon.
He's got the we got the slick back going there. Some Crisco and
you call that the Pat Riley look.
Yes, he's the Pat Riley of Indie Brigade.
Yep. And I'm not throwing any stones. I have like a 1980s mullet, so what the hell do I know?
You're not rocking a mullet back there.
No.
He wishes
a little bit
rocking a mullet. Wishes.
But Ernie did have the something about Mary thing.
Oh, I did. I told you that's George's fault.
What's that? Oh,
my hair.
Dude,
you have the Stan Laurel look going on. It's very, very, very hip.
Thanks. Oh, not me.
That's all right. Who needs vanity? We're filmmakers.
There you go.
That's right.
That's why we're usually behind the camera. Look at us.
Yeah, I don't do this shit for the glamour of it.
No.
I do this shit because the voices in my head won't shut up.
Well, you guys already friggin' crushed my dreams, knowing that if I go into an indie film, I'm not going to have a trailer. I'm not going to be catered to.
No, Joe, you will. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll take care of you.
If you work in one of my films,
of Indie Brigade.
And that's why we do this.
Thank you so much for coming on tonight, guys.
It was great seeing all you guys. Ernie, great luck with your film. It looks awesome, pal.
Thanks, buddy. I look forward to seeing yours.
Absolutely. Best of luck to everybody, and we'll be in touch.
We're going to have to do it again sometimes, guy. See ya.
Thanks, guys.